So Noah Webster Educational Foundation has 5 core focuses that we dig into. The first is instruction, and that's 360, everything related to instruction. Parenting, the role of parents in education. The third one is the role of government in education. The fourth is faith and morality in education. Um, a lot of times in schools, public system, they're trying to expunge anything like that. And, but it's part of who humanity is. They have that metaphysical dynamic. And so, that cannot function in a vacuum. And then the last, of course, is facilities. So is there anything you'd like to speak to on any of those points briefly, just kind of as we're kind of heading toward wrap up?
Absolutely. Again, curriculum. I think everybody watching this, whether watching the news or being personally involved in a school with their own student, I think all of us have seen some flaws in some type of curriculum, whether it's in science or social. We have seen, even with math, Virginia recently in the news. So I think all of us have seen some frailty in the curriculum. I think for me, as we focus on curriculum, to understand that stakeholders do have, we can be agents of change in the formation of curriculum. And when curriculum comes out that there's something that's fundamentally wrong or goes against our worldview, we can cry foul and bring it to the attention of the local school board and say, this is wrong. We need to reevaluate this. We have a say in that. We don't have to just, put our hands behind our back, sit down and say, all right, we're just going to take it.
Yeah.
So I think that's our responsibility. As far as government and policy, again, I think us getting involved, knowing who you're voting for, running yourself, I think those are fundamental. What I found when I was running for an office is, as I was going around to all the forums with folks that were running for much higher offices, representatives and senators and things, we were all, it was a big election year. We were all going around the same circuit together, speaking at forums. The majority of people are just voting for who they saw on a sign on the side of the road, how many commercials they can remember. And I think we have to be informed. And I think that would help. As far as faith and morality, that is absolutely one of my passions. I mean, it's who I am. And I think for students and teachers alike and parents, we need to understand that even the ACLU, which has traditionally been against religion and trying to solidify that separation of church and state, there are ACLU fought and won lawsuits that protect certain elements of our religion in the classroom. I just think it's a matter of, there's a lot of teachers, from experience, there are a lot of teachers that don't really know what they can do, what they can't, what they can say, what they can't. And so to err on the side of safety, because that's their job, that's their income, they check their faith in at the door of the classroom.
Let me just add something there if I could too. There are many states that have laws on the books regarding education that give specific guidance on faith initiatives. Faith, it's not specific to a particular faith, but there are leeways there, and even things that are encouraged because historically it's just known, if you want to have a well-rounded citizen, they have to be well-rounded, and a lot of times people just don't know what's going on there, and as a result, it just gets run right over.
And you cannot deny the influence Christianity specifically has had in the formation and the creation of this country, of our Constitution, of our educational systems, the influence the Bible has had. And so as teachers, yes, we have laws, even in Virginia, that protect us as educators to teach it as long as it's historically accurate and it's related to what we are teaching. So there's a lot of freedoms there. And I think for me, I would advocate when we're talking about faith and morality for educators to be informed, to read the law, to find out what they can and can't specifically do.
Yeah.
And students, pretty much every state, including Virginia, you have an open pass. I mean, you have pretty much freedom to do whatever you want as long as you are not hurting somebody else. If you
Yes.
want to invite someone to church, you can do that. If you want to talk about your relationship with God, you can do that. If you want to raise your hand at Christmas and ask your teacher, can you teach us about the meaning of Christmas, and have that dialogue, you can do that. Teachers are much more restricted than students, but even in that relationship, if a student asks a teacher a specific question, that teacher can answer through their lens of faith and worldview. So again, I would just encourage, at our church, we make sure that our children and our youth groups are educated on what they can and cannot do in the classroom with their faith. And I would encourage our teachers to do the same. And for parents to know about the policy, because there are often times, that might not be often, it just might be they're reported on a lot, they're in our face through the media, but there are times that kids will be told something that they can't do or can't say, and they're shut down because of their religious beliefs. But parents being informed and knowing, they can advocate for their student in a correct and appropriate way. So that's huge for me. I think faith and morality are big, and I don't think faith should be confined. I think it should be celebrated. You can't check who you are at the door.
Right.
And so, one quick example, my wife years ago brought a student home, and this was a student that was very ornery, a disciplined, active student, and berated my wife at many occasions. And my wife brought her home, and she looked at my wife and she said, "Why are you always so nice to people?" And I don't know what my wife's reply was, but her next reply, the student looked at her as somebody that's not in the faith world, somebody that is very rebellious and angry, and said, "Well, you know what, Mrs. McCracken, you must be one of those real Christians." I think for teachers to understand, you don't have to bring a Bible
Yeah.
through all of the classroom with you. Just live out who you are. But I think the tragedy is sometimes we feel we can't even do that. So for faith and morality, I would just say teachers, students, parents, be informed on what the laws are, what the policies are, and act accordingly. But you will find great freedom and liberty even in that.